Uh, okay, like that. And PowerPoint. Where are we? Okay, were you guys able to launch Zoom to see my screen? You know, one of the other profs telling me they had the same problem. I'm wondering if he was in this room. They, for those of you that know something about computers, it only takes VGA, like the old fat connector that you used to see on computers 15 years ago, 20 years ago, with a converter right there. Um, yeah, good times. It's going to go well. And I got to make sure people don't cross in front because they're going to take out my camera. But I don't feel like having to buy a new one. Okay, good times. All right, so welcome to CST8260. The lecture's only 1 hour. We have a break for half an hour and then we go to lab. Don't ask me why there's a break. I have no idea. But they put in a half-hour break between the two. Okay, now somebody's got their sound on. Can you turn down your... Okay, now. Nope. Who's got their sound up on their laptop? Because I can hear myself. Oh. All right. There we go. That's much better. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to introduce myself, give you guys the basic lowdown for this course, give you guys a quick tour of the Brightspace shell, the usual things you guys get on week one, and then I'm going to dive into the course material for today. The fact that it's a 1 hour lecture means the lecture is very fast-paced, unfortunately. The good news is I do record my lectures. It normally goes a lot better than this initial couple of minutes me trying to figure out what I was going to do. All right, so I'm a college graduate, not a university person. I graduated in 1996. That's probably before most of you were born. Um, I've literally been... Now somebody else has got their sound on. Oh, that's nice. Just turn down your sound. Okay. So I've been working as a professional developer ever since. Literally, I've been unemployed a grand total of maybe 2 weeks ever since then. So it's a good field to get into. I work full-time and I teach part-time. I'm currently working as a team leader with the data analytics support team at Health Canada. Um, Before that, I spent 26 years as a full-stack web developer with a side of AWS administration. Literally, you know, the program you guys are in is what I did for a living for almost 26 years. I'm talking, I was doing web development when we didn't have CSS and websites were black on white with, you know, Times New Roman, and that was considered cool. So what kind of person am I? I tend to have a very loose and easygoing teaching style. I don't use teacher's notes. Why? I've been doing this for so long, not just the teaching, but what I'm teaching you guys, that teacher's notes slow me down. I tend to be fairly understanding that life happens. Shit happens to everybody at some point or other. If something goes sideways, let me know ahead of time. Telling me 4 days after is usually not the right time. But by that same token, I don't put up with stupid stuff like, oh, my dog peed on my laptop for the third time. Maybe stop leaving your laptop on the floor. Or if your dog's managing to get on your desk, that's an amazing dog. But, you know, don't use the same excuse over and over and over again. And I've also been known for a lack of political correctness, and sometimes I've been known to roast people in class. It's just who I am. When you work in private industry for long enough, you tend to lose a lot of filters. It is what it is. Okay, so best practices for success in this course. surprise, attend the lectures and the labs, in this case, the lab. You guys are the smallest group I've had in 16 years. So one lecture, one lab section for the whole group, which is a little different. It's been a while since that's happened to me. Um, this course does move rather quickly. You can miss a lecture, you can start getting lost. Um, contact the prof early in case you get sick or exceptional circumstances happen. Um, now, that having been said, you've probably all noticed me setting up my camera and putting on a headset. I record my lectures. I'm one of the few profs that does. Not even sure if I'm supposed to even still do that, but I still do it anyways. One of the reasons I do that is if you get sick and you can't attend a lecture, you're not going to fall behind. You just get to lay in bed and watch me on YouTube. Um, also, if you're sick, that means you don't need to come to class and give it to everybody else. Um, some people get sick fairly easily. Yeah. Oh no, I'll answer. Oh no, it's fine. I'll capture them as I go. I'd rather answer questions as they go. The reason I use a headset is if I was using the microphone on my camera, I'd have to actually get written permission for anybody who talks because I post my lectures on YouTube. Therefore, the college requires permission to post to. The other reason why I have a chair there so nobody walks in front of the camera because I've had to edit video a while, because I can't have your face on there either. Um, and it's written permission every time you appear on video, not just one blanket statement. So, um, yeah, it's there. So if you need to review, it's great. Like I said, this course is actually fairly fast paced. Um, honestly, for at least for the first half of the semester, the 1 hour lectures are not really long enough. So we tend to go pretty quick. Um, now, to finish with this set of slides, at least, so we can move on to what actually needs to happen. Keep up with reading material. If there's any reading material, it'll be up on Brightspace. In this case, the reading material is the slides. There's no textbook. Ignore the line that says a free PDF version of this textbook because there used to be a textbook, and then they decided not to use a textbook because the textbook was pointless waste of $250. So, but I left it there because there will be the odd document I'll point to you since it's worth reading. Recommended to review the slides prior to the lecture. I will put out announcements every week after the lecture. It will include what you should be working on, when is it due, what is coming up, links to the recording every week. There's no excuse to say you don't know what you're supposed to be doing because it's going to land in your inbox. Probably by the end of the night tonight, you'll have this week's announcement. Complete the labs. So labs are due by the end of the following week, roughly. Check the due dates in Brightspace. They're all in the calendar. I allow up to 1 week late with a 20% penalty. If you're 5 minutes late, I'm not going to take the 20%. If you're 24 hours late, at that point, the 20% is going to kick in until the end of that week. If it's more than a week, you let me put in the easiest grade there is to do, it's 0. And no, I don't feel bad about giving people zeros if they don't do the work. Um, labs are a really good way to test what you're learning and ask questions, studying groups whenever possible, practice. Okay. How's your grades broken down? 35% towards your 10 labs. So that means each lab's worth roughly 3.5% of your grade. There are 2 practical assessments. They're be done in lab. That is literally, you're going to come in, spread out in the room, and you're going to give it a piece of work, and you're going to do it, and you have an hour, 50 minutes, and they're each worth 12.5% of your grade. There's hybrids. I resurrected the hybrids in this because originally there was not hybrids in this for years. Hybrids are basically a case of go read website A, answer this quiz. It's just to help enhance your learning activities. And then Theory assessments is 30%. That's 2 tests. So 50, each test is worth 15%. Um, Likely done on paper because our department really does not like bright space tests. You can probably guess why they don't like bright space tests. If you can't, you're not very imaginative, because it's really easy to cheat. Lockdown browsers do not work. When they introduced the lockdown browsers, I proved to them I could defeat it in under 5 minutes. So yeah. All right. This is a 224 class. So you have 2 hours of theory, 1 hour in class, and 1 hour a week set aside for the hybrids. The hybrids really don't take an hour most of the time. They're probably 20 minutes to half an hour. Um, 2 hours of lab. That's basically your homework time where you're going to practice what I teach in class. And usually you're expected to do about 4 hours of study time. Depending on how your brain is wired, you might not even need it. Depends on who you are. Okay. I always throw in this slide because it's actually a good thing for you guys to know about. There's a few things to help you succeed. At level 1, a lot of people come to school for the first time or first time in a long time, depending if you're a mature, mature student coming back. So one of the first things is Cal. Um, if you have any kind of learning challenges, whether you have, diagnosed ADHD or insert other kind of issues, Cal is there. They've got resources for physical assistance, learning disabilities, people that are neurodivergent. My daughter's ADHD was really bad when she was coming through school. She's actually probably older than half this class. That makes me feel extra old. Um, but she could write her tests in a quiet room with headphones on. She could provide them with a playlist. They check to make sure there's no cheating material on it and listen to music while she took her tests in a quiet room. They provided, study tools for her. That was just for ADHD. Cal is fantastic. They are absolutely worth it. Peer tutoring, $8 an hour. And last I heard, they even have financial assistance, and you may get a few. I think you might get the first hour for free. At least you used to. I'm not sure if they still do. Algonquin Mental Health Support Services, because sometimes you just need to talk to someone about whatever's happening in your life. Profs will listen to you, but we're not trained to help you. Most of us aren't, at least. If you really do need help, they're there, and they actually have really good counselors. Also, there's the last link is a bunch of other support services. Other things, different cafeterias all over the place. Um, the Wolf's Den I've never eaten at, but the observatory has the best poutine in the school. They close at 6 though, so if you need to eat, you got to go early. The club sandwich in this building in the cafeteria is really good too, just so you know. Sounds funny talking about food, but you know, I remember being a student, my eating habits weren't very good, so it's good to highlight where there's actually not necessarily good for you food, but at least good food. All right, so that's the course intro. I'm just going to drop into the Brightspace shell for a minute. All right, so this is your 4th day. Well, 3rd day. I guess the first day is a write-off. Your 3rd day, so by now you've probably seen Brightspace. It's a pretty standard course shell. My course shell is very basic. You've got the course information here. The CSI is there. Yes, I know it says fall 2024, but it's the exact same schedule. I forgot to upload the new file. But it's the exact same schedule. So I don't do by dates, I by week. So a few other things. You can reach me by email. I don't have an office here at the school. I don't have a phone number here at the school. If you need to have a one-on-one for whatever reason, the good news is there's a half an hour between classes, so we can go find a quiet spot to go chat. Um, but yeah, outside of that, I can usually make time through the week. But like I said, I do work full time, so it's busy. Um, any class recordings will have links in the recording section. All your lectures are obviously under lectures. Um, hybrids are where they're going to be, and I think they're actually all, no, the first four are visible to you, so everything that you have to do before the break is visible to you. So all the labs up to the break is visible, all the hybrids up to the break is visible, all the lectures up to the break are visible. So I don't hide my material and time gate it like some other courses do where they don't give it to you till like 10 minutes before the start of class. Mine's available right to the break. Um, I feel that takes a bit of the stress out for the students, and well, for me, it takes out the stress having to remember to turn it on. Um, your labs are all here, listed one after another. And you click on the lab itself, you'll actually have the actual instructions for the labs. There's no PDFs to download. It's all there. Outside of lab one, I'm just going to go to lab two really quick. Still stuck in lab one. Okay, hang on. Lab two. You'll notice template files at the top. That's where you actually download that and you fill that in, submit it to me to make my grading life easier. Um, it's been fairly cleaned up, and the labs have been fairly cleaned up from last semester, so hopefully there's not a lot of big issues. Um, and after the labs, you'll see two things down here. It shows midterm assessment and final practical assessment. There's nothing in there you guys can see yet because it's not available to you because it's not the time of year yet. Okay. Before I dive into the actual meat of today's lecture, let me put a reminder for the couple that straggled in. It's only a 1 hour lecture, folks, even though they're not even listening. Don't be late because you'll miss like a quarter of the lecture if you show up 15 minutes late. So try to be on time. Does anybody have any questions about how I'm going to tackle this course? Going once, twice, three times. All right. So today it's just going to be the very theoretical part of the course where I'm just talking about general database concepts. Um, the lectures are so short that I have two choices when I teach this. I can either read the slides to you or ignore the slides outright and just sit here and do demonstrations the entire time. I'm going to be doing demonstrations and let you guys read the slides on your own because you don't probably need me to read the slides to you. There is not enough time. Like some of the slide decks are 30 slides long. Normally you have, you should be averaging 20 slides for an hour. So if you do the math, there's not time to do the slides and demonstrations, and I'd rather show you guys how to do the stuff because this course is very hands-on. And then you guys can read the slide decks ahead of time so you know what we're talking about, so you understand what the theory is of how it works. Okay. Now, close that, come here. Man, I hope my recording's working. It really sucks not being able to point at the screen. Okay, relational databases. So obviously this is a database course, in case you hadn't guessed by the name of the course. So relational databases, a database is a collection of logically organized related data. It's basically the tables and their supporting objects. Data are stored in tables. How many people in here have used a spreadsheet? Excel, oh thank God, it's like the biggest yes to spreadsheet I've had in a while. Numbers, Google Sheets, whatever the heck you use, right? Um, so if you know what an Excel spreadsheet looks like, you have the general idea of what a table is. It's a series of rows and columns. Um, it's basically based on the mathematical set theory. Do you guys vaguely remember learning about sets in high school? They might have, I don't know if they still cover it. I know, I think my daughter took it. So, and she's not that much older than you guys. She might be younger, she's probably younger than some of you. So, Yeah, the set theory is the whole concept of complementary sets. So, the complement, the whatever the heck the rest of it's called. There's a lot of theory in database, and you'll get a lot of the design theory in your level 2 course that follows this one. I've taught it many times. That's why I know exactly what's coming after this course, your course in level 2. I used to teach it. Um, so there's a strong theoretical foundation, but the good news is that you can learn a lot of it hands-on. You don't need to sit there and learn relational algebra. When I went through school, I had 4 database courses in my program, and I had to learn relational algebra. It was the best bedtime reading ever because half a page and you were asleep. It was the worst material ever. Literally, as a whole concept of math that was created just for dealing with data, it was created in the 60s. So it's actually very recent mathematics as far as mathematics goes. Yeah. All right, so tables. Database tables hold structured data. They contain a collection of columns, such as fields and rows. Um, it can be made up of one or more entities. Each entity becomes a table. Um, essentially, it's just a grid of information. And this information is organized with, each piece of information in this table has a name of some sort, and it has a data type. It's really rough talking about data types to week 1, level 1 students, but yeah, data types. Um, so, and the other piece that has to do with relational database is relationships. It's the connection between objects in the database. If I were to apply it to this group of people without talking about computers, um, there is a very specific relationship happening in this room. You have students and you have a professor and you have a course, right? So I am teaching a course. You guys are attending a course. So I have a relationship to the course. Whereas in other words, I've got actually multiple courses, but I can have one or more courses and you guys have obviously one or more courses and we are related through this course. So there's 3 tables of data involved in this where they're related to each other. And in the end, the whole relationship works out to I have one or more students and you guys have one or more profs across all your courses. Those are relationships in the database. Level 2, you'll spend an entire day learning about them. So I'm just giving you guys the basic concept of how things are interconnected. The other piece that often is used in database is ERDs. I'm just going to go close that door now. I knew I should have closed it earlier. Okay, so ERDs are diagrams, or in this case, they call them ERDs, they're enhanced. Basically, it's a graphical representation of the structure of the database. You can look at the diagram and basically figure out what's connected to what. Again, it's more of a level 2 concept at this point, but diagrams exist to make your life easier. So schemas are the next piece up. Yep. No, UML copied it. It's the other way around, where they use the concepts of logical database diagrams, because there's 3 kinds of ERDs, or ERMs in this case, depending how you want to call it. And UML copied the middle one. Essentially, they go, hey, this is a really good way to represent data, so let's go use it for the programming side also. And then they made it and pretended it was theirs. All right, so schemas. Different database servers will treat schemas differently. But essentially, in general terms, a schema is the same thing as a single database. Picture a schema as a filing cabinet. Okay, you guys know what a filing cabinet is, right? Please. Okay, filing cabinet, drawers, has shit in it. So picture the schema being a filing cabinet, each drawer being a table, and each file in that drawer is a record. So a schema is a collection of all the different tables. There's just databases can be really big filing cabinets with hundreds of drawers. You can set permissions and rights. They talk about something being similar to a namespace. You guys don't even know what a namespace is, so I'm probably going to take that out for next year's lecture. So a schema is a database, and a database is a schema for most database servers. The one you guys are going to be using this course is called MariaDB. It's MySQL's cousin, kind of, sister, brother, but not. Relationship's really complicated. It basically treats a database as a schema interchangeably. Other database servers, such as Oracle, has schemas that is the database, but you can have multiple schemas running side by side inside the same database. PostgreSQL also does that. Microsoft SQL Server is more like MySQL. So relational databases, again, it's essentially, in the end, the final definition of a relational database is it's a database product that defines the relationships between tables. That's a relational database. Through common fields. So often when you do a relationship between two tables, there'll be a point of commonality. For example, the relationship in this class, the point of commonality between me and you is 25W CST8260 section 300, right? That is the point of commonality between me and you guys because we're being mapped through that relationship. When we talk about relationships in the database, that's exactly how those work. So database management systems, now that we're going to step away from the really theoretical stuff and get more to the practical side of it. And by the way, what I just covered in whatever that was, like 10 minutes, is normally 3 lectures in some other courses. Because it's going to be like 3 lectures next semester. It's just, you need a little bit of background. So a database management system is a piece of software or a system, a combination of pieces of software that allows a database to be hosted on an operating system. So essentially it handles talking to the database. So you got a piece of software running in the background. You can't actually see it. It's a service. It's what they call a service. It runs in the background. And that service interfaces between the applications, whatever it is you're using to talk to the database, and the actual database itself. So it's man, I used to have a perfect example for what it is. Essentially, the purpose it serves is to words, Dan. So, do you ever call somewhere or text, whatever? Well, actually, texting is the best example because that's pretty much what everybody does now. You need help, right? And you just bought something on Amazon, it got delivered to your house, and it's broken, and you've tried to return it, and they won't let you return it. So you open up a chat with Amazon after sales support. Anybody here ever experienced that? Okay. Or anybody here ever open up a chat with your cell phone provider because you want to change your features or get a new phone, or your phone was stolen? Take your pick of why, or insert other reason why you opened up a chat with someone. So the chat interface is basically providing a way for you to communicate with something else. The database server is like that chat interface. It allows a piece of software, whether it's a web application, a desktop application, database design tool, to let you talk to the data. The data itself is totally unusable by you. Once it's inside the database files, even if you open the file, you'd never be able to find the data in it because it's all binary data. It's unreadable by you. The database server translates it and gives you an interface to talk to it. It controls access, enforces data integrity, has stuff like concurrency control where you can let more than one person access the database. Can you imagine um, if only one person at a time could use a database? You guys are thinking that, well, that doesn't sound that bad. Imagine if only one of you could ever open access. Only one of you at a time could open up Brightspace, because that's all running on databases. So imagine, you're connected to Brightspace. Nobody else in this room, none of the other 75,000 people that use Brightspace can use it at the same time as you. Database servers provide the tools for what they call concurrency. In other words, letting more than one person use it at a time. It's just really, really good at balancing the workload. Okay, so when we think about the components of a database management system, um, you've got users. That's, what allows you to connect to it. You've got the hardware where it runs. In this class, it's all going to run on your laptops, assuming you have laptops. If you don't have a laptop, you're going to have a really hard time. There's software. So that's the database software like MariaDB. There's another piece of software you're going to install called DataGrip. That's going to be your tool to talk to MariaDB. Obviously, you've got the data and you've got procedures. Notice procedures in red because we're not talking about those this semester, but essentially those are programs that are built into the database to do things for you. Maintenance routines. All right. Now, this is a different diagram that shows roughly how the whole thing is put together. You've got users and programmers that use applications and queries. It submits it to the software, and then it distributes it to the different pieces underneath. So, why would you want to use a database? That's, a fairly good question at this point. So you use databases to control data redundancy. That one's a little iffy. That depends on how good the developers were. But data consistency, on the other hand, is absolutely why you use databases. If you define the data to be in a certain kind of structure, the data must always be in that structure. That means it's going to be consistent all the time. Data sharing. Many people use Brightspace. You're all sharing that data. You're all part of this course shell. Ease of development. Yeah, modern database systems are actually really easy to work against once you know how to do it. Compared to how it was way back in the dark ages. And people keep trying to bring back the dark ages for some unknown reason. Database development can be fairly straightforward. The primary language you're going to be using is called SQL. SQL is very English-like. It's very, not verbose, but it's fairly straightforward and logical. When you compare SQL to, say, Python or C# or, JavaScript, pick your poison. It's way easier to read. Most database servers are really anal retentive about how you write things, so it also will tell you when you're wrong very quickly. Usually if you use a database, your data quality will be improved. Once again, referring back to the dark ages, you'll hear lots about NoSQL databases like MongoDB. Those are all unstructured databases that don't use relationships. That's literally how it was in the 60s and 70s, where everything was just flat files that were being read. It was slow. The modern NoSQL databases are really fast, but you can literally shove anything you want into them. So I'm going to put a record in there. I'm going to put a second record into this table, and it could be completely different from the others. It's a Wild West. You can do whatever you want in them. That most of them don't support SQL. You can't do the normal things you would do. So everything's a little more complicated. Um, they're faster. I'm putting air quotes around it because realistically, a well-designed relational database will be just as fast. All right, and data accessibility. If it's in a shared database, that means the data is accessible to all the people. So if the rules are set up right, you have multiple people accessing this data. All right, so now I'm going to talk SQL. You'll notice I don't call it SQL because you'll hear people, oh yeah, no, I'm going to be learning SQL. No, you're learning SQL. Um, there's a reason why people call it SQL is when IBM was creating it back in the day, they were planning to call it SQL, SEQUEL. And then a company in Great Britain sued the pants off them because they already had a product that did something similar called that. So IBM just said, we'll make it easy. We'll just take the vowels out. And so every time I hear someone say, oh, yeah, no, it should be called SQL, I said, you call the company that created it called IBM? It's IBM. So there's a difference between an acronym and initialism. SQL is an initialism. So SQL is the language used for accessing and manipulating databases. It's been around since the 70s. I learned SQL when I went to school. I learned it in 95-ish. Yeah, let's go with 95. 90% of what I learned is the same today. SQL has not changed. Why? Because they got it right the first time. Now, they have made improvements to it since then. I learned on Oracle 7. Um, I think so. Yeah, Oracle 7. Um, there's certain things that I'll be teaching you guys later this semester that how it was done back then. You don't do it like that now, just for, you know, modern sake. A lot of it will still work, but because it has to be backwards compatible. But there's just some things that they've made better since then. They add features every couple of years. There's actual specific standards. Most database servers are real proud that they support ANSI 99, which, by the way, stands for 1999. You know, most of them are proud that they support the 1999 standard. The last standard that came out, if I remember, it was 2018. So they're proud of being 19 years behind. But the funny thing is that the 1999 version of SQL is pretty much what everybody needs. Everything since then has just been extra little bits, like new data types, new kinds of relationships, not new kinds of relationships, but new kinds of queries and stuff like that. But literally what I was learning in the 90s is the same stuff you guys need to know now. How do I know? It's literally what I did for 26 years or more. So SQL is used for inserting, updating, and deleting rows. You can use it for creating databases, modifying the table structures of said databases, that kind of thing. And there's an example on the slide, select star from city. Be learning more about that particular statement in 2 weeks. But you could read this as an English statement as in select everything from city. It's very English in the way it's written. Yeah. All right. MySQL and MariaDB. MySQL is a relational database management system. It's open source, free to use, kind of. So MySQL was a thing. It was like a foot fungus. It was everywhere. Everybody had it. And Oracle decided they didn't like the free competition, so they basically bought the foundation. So MySQL was free. There was a nonprofit foundation that collected donations. Oracle didn't like that, so they came in and bought the foundation and basically said, we now own MySQL. And then they basically let it stagnate for a good 5 years. But the second it was about to be bought, the founders of MySQL did what's called a fork. They took all the source code, made a copy of it, and renamed it to MariaDB. Actual fact, there was like 5 forks, but the other 4 are dead. So there's MySQL and MariaDB. At one point, they were identical. They literally did the exact same thing, feature for feature. Now, over the years, it slowly did this. MariaDB is considered an in-place replacement for MySQL. So if you've got an application designed for MySQL, it'll work on MariaDB. The thing is, if you write something for MariaDB, it might not work on MySQL. It's more like a one-way trip, right, to get you off the Oracle bandwagon. MariaDB is actually free to use. It works on almost everything. Um, is it a good database product? No. Yes, kind of. Um, it's lightweight. It's fairly performant. It supports most things. Therefore, yes, it's good. No, it's not good because it lets you do things that you're not supposed to be able to do. There's actual functionality every database server has that they say if you try to do this, the database server says no. MariaDB just says, "I got you, fam." It's all good, and then it lies to you because it lets you do something you're not supposed to do. So I have mixed feelings about MariaDB. I try to avoid it whenever I can because I'd rather use reasonable database products like Postgres or MySQL Server. But MariaDB will run on a potato, so it is what it is. It also run on pretty much all the hardware in here, including Macs, which is good since this program allows both Macs and Windows PCs and Linux if you really feel brave. Um, yeah. And the last piece that you need to know for this course is data grip. That's going to be our tool that we're going to use to access the database. MariaDB installs, but it doesn't give you a tool to actually talk to it. So you're literally got, imagine the chat window. So the chat responder is there, but it doesn't give you the tool to actually type into the chat window. Data grip is the chat window you get to type in. So everything exists, but without the tool to talk to it. So data grip is what we're going to use. Heads up, if your computer's a potato, data grip's going to hurt a little bit. Data grip's a little hungry. Most JetBrains products are. But it's also probably the best database tool you'll ever use. So everything else after this feels weak. Um, so, all right, perfect. So before I dive off and actually show you data grip, in the lab, there's a line that says, by the way, go register an account at JetBrains. I've had students that come back after 30 days and suddenly say, my data grip stopped working. Can you take a guess why after 30 days your data grip stopped working? You're running the trial. JetBrains gives out educational licenses for free. You get all the things, not just data grip. You get all the JetBrains products. For those of you that wonder what that actually means, um, if you are watching the Zoom cast, come on. Oh, my computer's not happy about the Zoom and my screen record. Okay, so I just loaded up what's called the toolbox. You can see I got PHP Storm and Data Grip installed. And I'm going to scroll through the list of everything else you get as a student. I notice I'm still scrolling. Oh, you didn't. Should have told me that a while ago. Not now. Camera, zoom, full screen. Man, you guys should have told me that a while ago. Oh, I just skipped a few slides as I was going. Um, share, share this screen, share. Well, that explains why, yeah, definitely explains a few other issues. This should be really interesting if my screen recording just shits the bed, but that's good because you'll have the screen recording regardless. Okay, Now, can you kind of say a black screen? Okay, great. You should have said that earlier. Okay. Um, Back to Toolbox where I'm sharing it. You will see, like I'm scrolling. As a student, you get all of this, like all of that for free for a year. And then if your Algonquin email address is still valid, you get it for another year and another year. As long as your Algonquin email address is alive, you get to keep using the software. I've got a teacher's version of this. I've been using it for 10 years. It's free. How much is this worth? $700 a year US. So yeah, it includes a PyCharm, which you probably will want to use in your Python class. WebStorm, which you might want to use in your JavaScript class instead of VS Code, because VS Code is terrible. It stopped working. How do I know? Because I have to use it at work. Um, and a bunch of other tools. Really nifty, absolutely worthwhile. I will actually walk you guys. How much time do I have? I got a little bit of time. I will walk you guys to doing the whole JetBrains thing. So of course I was giving you guys the tour of Brightspace, and you guys never saw it. Okay, back to the Brightspace tour. Um, Man, don't be shy to speak up if something's not right. Um, so you'll have, like I said before, the CSI is up, but you won't be able to. It has the wrong date on it, but it's the same schedule. Recordings is where the recordings are going to go. Hopefully everything works. Um, Lectures, obviously the lectures are there, and the labs are also there. Their hybrids are there. So there's that stuff. Now I'm just going to go jump over to JetBrains. Although the instructions are fairly decent, I'd rather just give you guys the quick walkthrough on how to get it. So you go to JetBrains website, you hit store, and you'll see special offers and programs. You go to special offers and programs. Literally at the end here, there's a thing here for students, teachers, and community. Click on that. And then you go for students and teachers, and you hit learn more. And then you scroll down a bit and you go apply now. Oh, now I got to prove I'm human. Oh, the buckets. Yeah, that's a bucket. That's a bucket. That might be a bucket. No, that's not a bucket. Bags, bag, 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 bag. I hate those things. So in here, you'd go, hey, level of study doesn't make a difference. Vocational's fine. Um, Use your Algonquin email address. Don't use your personal email address. If you use your Algonquin email address, they give you the license automatically without verification. No questions asked. It just happens. Put that in, give in your name. I'm assuming nobody in here is under 13, so you don't need to mark yourself off as being under 13 years old. I don't know why they asked that question, but accept, hit apply. They'll send you an email. Click on the email. They'll get you to create a JetBrains account. You create your JetBrains account, then you can download your product, install it, and then when it launches, you'll use your credentials from JetBrains to activate it. And then you will have a fully functional set of products, and you can install whatever it is you want. Then she's probably teaching in here next and out of the room. Yeah, well, actually, she might be the teacher too. So, are you? Yeah, That's why I'm packing up right now. Yeah. It's all good. So after you've applied, you get your stuff, and away you go. Now I'm going to pack up to get out of this person's way. Um, I will see you guys at 7 o'clock in T111, the other end of the school. You get your steps in today. No, they're usually not that nice. PHP my admin, no, we're not going to use that. We're using data grip.